Right. Good morning, and it's a lovely day here on a Sunday afternoon. You know, it's after 12 now, and it's the month of August. Month of August, the 8th month of the year, named after Augustus, one of the Roman emperors. Now, what is interesting is that was it last week? Yeah, about a week ago, there were riots because of what had happened in Southport. 3 young kids, less than 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, were murdered by one 17-year-old young man that we're told comes from Wales. And the police had done nothing about it until the riot started. Now, we don't know all the details, but what is clear is that something has gone wrong in British society where the ordinary Joe in the streets does not trust the police anymore, because they expect the police to come hard on people who don't respect the Union flag of the United Kingdom, right? If you're British and you're patriotic, you think, why are they trashing my country, my flag, my people? And those are legitimate questions. Every country has got its own individual patriots. In America, we remember the patriots who introduced American War of Independence from King George III, and consequently 13 states became the foundations of the United States of America today. Britain are the same thing. In 1801, the United Kingdom started saying, hey, we're a union of Scotland, Wales, England, and Northern Ireland. Well, it was Ireland at that time. Ireland became a republic in the 1920s. So they're still Northern Ireland. So this is the core of being British, being Welsh, being Scottish, being English, and being Northern Irish. Okay? So our government, no matter who comes to power, whether it's Labour, Liberal Democrat, Reform maybe, you know, it's Labour and Conservative, should actually listen to the general public and not take people as mugs. You know, ordinary people are rather fed up. This Labour government does not really care about promoting harmony around the United Kingdom, which is a shame. It was in opposition for many, many years. The Tories had an opportunity to make sure Brexit worked properly for the whole nation. I support Brexit. Why? Because it meant getting away from the EU and its largesse, the way to operate in politics, economics, business. I mean, I traveled when I was working into Europe, you know, on business. So I know what happened there. But I was always happy when I saw the flag and said, hey, it's Britain that we're coming back to. Because we're a unique nation, an island nation, okay? So whether you're from the Picts or the Welsh or the Anglo-Saxons or the Normans, it doesn't matter. You're British. Rejoice in your being British, because other countries love it when they say, I'm an American, I love it. I'm Canadian, I love it. So why is it that British people don't want to be proud of being British in a good sense? You know, we like to denigrate people that have done well, and that's silly. Now, Southport is the flashpoint. In my opinion, looking at what's happening around the country from a historical point of view, I see this as a precursor, something that is beginning to happen in Britain, where ordinary people are fed up of society's governments, right, local and national. They're fed up of the police because they have a two-tier way of operating, for example, in the metropolitan cities like Manchester or even London in particular. We see this on Saturday where, you know, this is almost illegal from a police point of view. If I walked in the streets of London on Saturdays just like this, they'll say, no, you can't be here, because the PLO, Hamas people over there protesting against Israel, they've got more rights than I have. And by the way, I'm not even Jewish. It's just that I got sick and tired of my Jewish friends being trampled upon. Now remember, when in Nazi Germany in the 1930s, Hitler came for the defenseless. Hitler took children that were not perfect. They had a limp, and he put them in the gas chambers. That's right. He murdered little babies, little children, 5 years old, 3 years old, and he ripped them from their parents. These were, and then the Jews were put in the gas chambers. And then he went for the trade unions. right? And then he started going for the Protestant Christians as well. So who was there to stand up and say, hang on guys, this is wrong? Very few people left alive would stand up. There was Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a Christian, German Christian. He stood up, he was murdered by the Nazis firing squad. All because as a Christian pastor, he said, I'm a Christian and I'm supporting what is right, not what is wrong. So we have a chance in Britain to have a revival and a reformation, you know, not the 16th or 17th version, but the 21st version. Wales had a revival in 1904. And guess what? The police would be patrolling the streets in Wales, and then they'll go to the judges. The judges say, any cases to answer today? And they'll say, we've got nothing at all. Wow! Can you imagine a society where the judges have got nothing to do? Because everybody in Wales had heard the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, they become Christians, their lives were turned the right way up. You know, some of the miners, hardcore miners who swear a lot, they would go in the tunnels digging for coal. And they would say gentle words to their donkeys and horses going into the tunnels to dig for coal. And the animals would go, what's the matter with this guy? He's not swearing at me anymore. That's right. The animals were shocked, right? This is what happens when the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ transforms society. So Wales is a good example. 1904. And today, when you go travel to Wales, you'll find almost every town has got a little church, a Bethel. That's amazing. In England, the same thing happened. There was a revival. The Salvation Army came here by General Booth, and they did tremendous work in East London, and they spread out. Now they're international. Okay, the church is God's means of changing society, not politics. Politics is made by people full of pride. Yeah, they don't know mercy or compassion that God gives to the world. So if you're a Christian, you get involved in politics, fine. But make sure that you behave the way Moses behaved, the way Joshua behaved, the way Zechariah behaved, the way John the Baptist behaved. You make your mark, you get enemies because they don't like righteousness. They love the ungodly stuff that they parade around with, okay? For example, what is pride? Pride marching around the area. I mean, pride is the #1 enemy of God. God says, be humble. And yet, we are pride marchers. Arrogance. That's Satan's sin. So in Southport, people were boiling. It's been going on for too long. So when these young children were murdered, I mean, how this 17-year-old man could murder defenseless babies is baffling. But don't give me excuses, oh, psychiatry. No. The gospel says, where do murders come from? From your heart. You desire something, you can get it, so you lash out. It's your heart that's wrong. So this 17-year-old man, his heart is wrong. Okay, we're Christians, we can pray for him that he'll be transformed, but he needs to face justice. Okay? Both coins. Mercy, compassion, and justice. Now, there are many people in Southport still grieving today because they see that the society has gone away from its Christian roots. Look at the people coming from France, so-called illegal immigrants on boats. Doesn't Britain have the Royal Navy? What's the Royal Navy for? The Royal Navy is part of government to protect and defend the realm. In other words, from domestic and international criminals. Now, some of these refugees are genuine, okay, but the vast majority, maybe 90%, are not genuine. No way, right? Now, why do I say this? Because these people are along the French coast. In Dunkirk, where I've been to, in Calais, I've been there as well, right? Why do people from, say, Syria want to come to Britain? Britain never colonized Syria. Did it? No. Right. So why do Syrians speak French and Arabic? They don't speak English. So why do Syrian refugees want to come to Britain? Why don't they go to France instead and stay there? Algeria, French before. So why do they want to come to Britain when they can go to France and stay there? France is quite a safe country, by the way, and France is 5 times the size of the United Kingdom. We have limited space in Great Britain. Simple as that. It's an island, right? We're surrounded by water. So why would you travel from Algeria, from Morocco, from Mauritania, from Syria, and go by boat, and then go to Italy, and then go overland, and then go to France, and then say, oh, there's England, there's Britain over there, I want to go there. That is crazy. That doesn't make any sense. France, Germany, Italy, they're safe countries, right? So why would you want to come to Britain when Britain is a very small island, right? We work hard for our money, and the government takes a huge chunk of it through taxes. And I'm personally fed up because some of my taxes are now going to the United Nations. From the UN, it goes to Hamas. Why? UNRWA, a terrorist-funded agency of the United Nations. By the way, here's a question for you guys out there. Why does the United Nations have 2 agencies for refugees? There is one designed for the so-called Palestinians, quote-unquote, and then there's another one called UN High Commission for Refugees for the whole world. Now, the rest of the world outnumbers the so-called Palestinians, right? So why does the United Nations take my tax money and chuck it to the PLO and Hamas? And they don't care about the rest of the world who are real refugees. For example, between India and Pakistan, there have been wars, at least 3 since 1948. Right? Does anybody want to talk about that? The Balkans, there were wars in the 1980s. Serbia, Herzegovina, and all the other countries of former Yugoslavia. And some of these people had to come here as refugees. Those were genuine. No problems about that. The Vietnam War, there were genuine refugees. Okay? That was way back in the 1970s. Right? So we've got genuine refugees and bogus refugees. Now, when the Labour Party, where there's David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, allows the bogus refugees to come here, and he gives them preference, God bless you, gives them preferential treatment, right, at the expense of ordinary British people who can't get on the housing market, for example. They don't get housing benefits. They don't get the perks that the so-called bogus refugees get. Now, that's wrong. That means your so-called unity is being destroyed because by your policies, which are coming in, you're dragging ordinary British people down the gutter. And that's wrong. So Southport was a flashpoint. Now, there are other places. For example, Rochdale, a few years ago, right? We warned about what was happening there because there were grooming gangs from the Islamic community, mostly Pakistanis, unfortunately. But they were taking white girls and having sex with them and grooming them. And yet the local constabulary was not actually doing its due duty. And that's wrong. So you got a problem right there. In other words, divisions are occurring because you're not actually enforcing the law. Scotland, Glasgow Airport was bombed by 2 dentists about 20 years ago. Why? These are Muslim dentists, and they actually bombed Glasgow Airport. Why? Why would they do that? Because that's the agenda of Islam. Since 1948, for example,
Question.
until I'm not taking questions.
Okay, I want a question.
Right, go home.
I want a question.
Right, 1948 until 2024. What has happened? Israel has had no military takeover by a coup, and yet there are 100 coup military takeover Islamic world in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in Algeria, in Morocco, Mauritania, in Jordan. Jordan has a king, but he kicked out the Arabs calling themselves Palestinians. He killed 250,000 of them during what they call Black September 1970. People forget about that. and then the rest were dumped into the Lebanon. The Lebanon used to be a wonderful little paradise in the Middle East, next door to Israel. Today, it's full of Hezbollah and other terrorists. Why? Because Islam does not respect people at all. We have a soldier, Rick Legby, who was murdered in South London, near Lewisham area, less than 10 years ago. People forgot that this was a soldier minding his own business, and yet the Muslims killed him, murdered him, right? Realistic. Wrong, isn't it? Well, in London, there were bombs on buses on train 77. Remember that? Oh, we've forgotten. How we forget so easily. And yet, all these attacks by Muslims, not by the Hindus, not by the Jews, not by Anglo-Saxons, but by Muslims who have infiltrated this society, and they've got the bombs, stored somewhere. They can make them chemicals, whatever, and they blow people up. They blow everybody up, right? Why? Because Britain is running away from its Christian roots. That's a problem. This flag is called the Union flag. Why? Because it's the union of Scotland, England, and Northern Ireland. There are three crosses. The cross of St. George, England, the cross of St. Andrews, Scotland, and the cross of St. Patrick, Northern Ireland. So from 1901 until today, this flag is what unites all these different countries in the United Kingdom. Why are we trying to destroy it from inside by allowing bogus refugees coming here, killing our children, killing everybody else, and then the police and administrators, they just look around, oh yeah, it's only a problem because you're talking about it. Well, we are talking about it because it's time to wake up and smell the coffee, right? The bandits are in the country now, and they don't want to. By the way, why doesn't the government deport these guys, right? Rwanda scheme, most people objected to it, but guess what? It was going to be a deterrent, right? You come here illegally, we shift it to Rwanda. Rwanda's agreed to look after you. Guess what? Italy's got a similar program. It's now got an Italian program with Albania. Exact same thing. And by the way, before the Rwanda program by Britain was signed, did you know that the United Nations, that's right, they've got their own Rwanda program. That's right. And they've been funding it, taking illegal refugees from Europe and dumping them in Rwanda. And nobody wants to talk about it. So if you're Labour and you're in government, why don't you criticize the United Nations for doing it? Of course, you like things to be politically correct. But look what's happened at the Olympics. I'm not watching the Olympics. How can a man box a woman in a woman's tournament, beat her up, and then you say that's not violence against women? This is a society with its programs like the Olympics showing us that something is dreadfully wrong, right? So these are my ideas of how can we change these things. Number one, justice must be fair and to be seen. Deport the criminals, get them out of here, for goodness sakes. Why you want to keep them? Why are you still allowing little boats to come from France to Britain? Why don't you get the Royal Navy, park the Royal Navy ships, maybe 6 of them in the English Channel, and whenever the boats come from France, the Royal Navy says, sorry, you can't go any further. Turn around, go back to France. France is Vive la France, it's a French country, it's free of charge, okay? Go talk to Max Macaroni over there, right? You're costing me my money, which I paid in my taxes, and I'm sick and tired of it, okay? I worked over 50 years, and why should my money be wasted on useless projects? There are far better charity cases in Britain, including ex-soldiers who are street sleeping every day. That's a disgrace, okay? We can build houses, we can do buildings. I used to be a lecturer before I retired. So what do? We go to colleges full of people from outside, and yet local English people are frightened to go to college. Well, they say they're outnumbered, which is crazy, right? This is Britain, this is England, this is Scotland, this is Wales, this is Northern Ireland. Stand up for your community in Jesus' name. Thank you very much. God bless you.